I remember getting so upset. This is like the best stuff I have. Like this is, people understood what they were getting, they would be blown away. But I remember looking in the audience and it was just like crickets.
The man, Brunson.
Paid to sell your product.
Love this guy.
I honestly believe the entrepreneurs are the only people that can actually change this planet. I want to walk you guys through a process, okay? We're talking about frameworks, but a lot of times people like get the concept, okay, I'm going to build a framework, step 1, 2, 3, and you kind of build a framework. But a lot of times it's like, well, how do I actually teach that framework? This is my framework for how to teach frameworks. And so I'm going to walk you through this, this process right here. So this is kind of like one of those inception things, like a dream inside of a dream, okay? All right, so the very first step in this framework for how to teach frameworks, actually before I tell you that step, I want to tell you guys my very first mistake that I made when I first started doing this. And this is important for you because I guarantee you're gonna make the exact same mistake that I did. I spent about 2 years in the internet business learning how to start businesses and how to grow them online and how to scale them. And during that time, I became obsessed with like the education side, like you guys are, right? And then one day I got a call from a friend and he said, hey, I'm doing this internet marketing seminar thing. Do you want to come teach what you do at it? Just come teach people what you do. And I was like, okay, so this is the picture of me, my very first internet marketing event. I was at this event teaching my framework. And I remember getting out and say, okay, hi everybody. And I was so awkward back then. I'm like, okay, let me teach you what I do. Step number 1. And I start teaching step number 1. I teach step number 2. But I remember like thinking like, this is like the best stuff I have. Like this is like, oh, if people understood what they were getting, they would be blown away. But I remember looking in the audience and it was just like crickets. Some guys asleep in the side, some of the ladies are like passed out, like everyone's like talking and I was just like, are they not understanding what I'm giving them? And my presentation got done, I was just like, that just didn't feel right. Like I don't think these people understood what was happening. But I tried my best, and then I remember I got invited a couple weeks later to another event, and someone invited me back and said, we want to come teach again. I said, okay, this time they're going to understand it, they're going to move, I'm going to change their life. I was so excited. I started teaching again, and within like 2 or 3 steps down the bullet point, I look in and people are falling asleep, people walking out. And I remember getting so upset. How many of you have felt this before? I remember I got so mad I like slammed my hand on the table, and everyone kind of stopped. I said, do you guys understand what I went through to learn this stuff for you? Let me tell you. And I started going through the story about how I learned it and how I earned all this stuff. And as I tell this story, everyone's eyes get this big, and they're all paying attention. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have their attention. And then I started teaching the framework. Everyone was taking notes, and it shifted everything. And so instead of me just going and teaching, the very first thing I did was actually the first step in the framework. I didn't just go and start teaching my framework. The first thing I did is I tell them the story about how I learned it or I earned it. Now, earned it means your experience. This is the things you went through. And learned it means your knowledge. So if you learned, you read, you studied, and you figured out. You have to understand, you guys, without the story, nobody's going to buy into your strategy. Okay, the strategy is an overview of your framework. The framework is like, if I was to whiteboard this out for you, that's what it would look like, okay? The strategy is the what you're going to be doing. If I was a general and have a whole bunch of soldiers and be like, okay, this is where you're going to go, and like, tell people where to go, they'd be like, wait, what? Like, why am I going over here? Like, what's the point of this? Okay, the first step is not to give them the tactics. The first step is to step back and say, okay, here's the strategy. This is what we're doing and why we're doing it. I help understand that, and they say, okay, and then they buy into the strategy. Okay, that makes sense. Then when I shift to the tactics, now they're willing to go do anything I tell them because they understand the strategy of where they're going. So step number 3 now, here's where you finally start teaching the tactics. Okay? And the tactics are, okay, let me show you what we're going to do. Step number 1, we're going to do this. Step number 2, step number 3, step number 4. Okay, if you've ever bought my course or Dean's course or Tony's course or anybody's course before, you've probably seen this, right? Most courses are teaching the tactics. Okay, the courses you remember, the courses that have transformed you, they start with the first 2 things we talked about. They don't just lead right here. Most people just lead with the tactics. This is where they're going directly. These are all important. If you don't set up each of these pieces and show them each individually, then you miss people all along. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we move on to the 4th and last step here inside the framework is giving them social proof that it's going to work for them as well. There's this weird thing you're going to find is a lot of times, as soon as you start publishing, you start putting products out there and courses out there, people are going to look at you. Of course, Russell can do it. It looks like he's 11 years old for crying out loud. Of course he can do it, right? Like everyone's got a thing. And they're going to say the same thing about you. And you're going to be like, wait, me? Like I'm just a normal person. But for whatever reason, because you're positioning yourself and you're showing them like you're the one that is this guide, if you are taking this, they're always going to be skeptical initially. So your job is to come back and say, okay, let me show you other people I've taken on this path. Okay, I took so-and-so on the path and so-and-so on the path, and here's other people I've taken on this path before. And so this is an example right here. This is Stacy Martino, but she's created a whole bunch of frameworks that help people in their marriages, okay? Her and her husband have created this company. They've saved over 10,000 marriages, okay? So they went initially themselves. They went on this thing, and they got this result for themselves. Okay? Then they came back down and started helping other people. Now they help 10,000 people get this result over and over and over and over again. And they have frameworks to take people through every single step. Okay? Inside their program, they have less than a 1% divorce rate, which is insane. Now it's important you have these case studies because without case studies, they're not going to actually believe your framework. Okay, so that's my framework on how to teach frameworks. And I want to share that with you guys because so many times people are like, they just teach to teach, right? I don't know about you, but I went to school, I went to college, and there are some amazing teachers out there. Some teachers that changed my life, right? But so many teachers come up there, they open the textbook and they start reading, right? They're going through the tactics and half the kids are asleep, no one's really getting change, no one's having the transformation they want, right? When you learn how to teach this way, right, where you go through a process, you tell them the story, how you learned it, you earned it, you show them your strategy, you show them the tactics, you give them results, then you're not only going to become a better teacher, you're going to be able to give people what you really want, which is giving them a transformation. And that's the goal, that's the process, that's why we're doing all this stuff. We get in the transformation, that's when you get more customers, that's when you change your life. Like, it feels so good. Okay, as much fun as this for you to, like, whenever you did this, the very first time you did this, and you got the result for yourself, I promise you, like, this is amazing, and you thought it was awesome, right? Okay, but I guarantee you there's something even better than that. The first time you get somebody else to get that result, and you give them that transformation, it always feels better. And that's the gift we want to give you guys, okay? The money is awesome, the branding is awesome, all those things are cool, but the reason why I do it, the reason why Dean does it, the reason why Tony does it, is because when you give someone else that transformation, there's nothing in this world that feels better than that.